She always said love changes people, but I never believed her until I watched him change right in front of my eyes. At first it was subtle, the way his smile no longer reached his eyes, the way his hands lingered less when he hugged me, the way his laughter felt hollow. I convinced myself it was just stress, deadlines, or perhaps exhaustion. I wanted to believe him because I loved him too much to see the truth. I remember the first night it hit me, that feeling you can't name, a sudden heaviness pressing down on your chest as your intuition screamed at you while your heart tried to ignore it. I was scrolling through my phone when I noticed her name, a simple notification glowing innocently at first, and yet it felt like a dagger cutting through my chest. Her name on his phone. Her messages, little things I had never noticed before, a smile emoji here, a sweet good morning there. I didn't react, I didn't scream, I didn't cry, I just sat there quietly memorizing every word, every punctuation, every little detail that betrayed the trust one thought was unbreakable. And as I sat in that silence, a decision was quietly forming inside me, a decision that would change everything. For the next few days I played the perfect girlfriend. I smiled, laughed, kissed, and pretended nothing was wrong, even as I collected screenshots, saved photos, and memorized every secret he thought was hidden. Because revenge, I realized, doesn't start with anger, it begins with patience and a plan. I watched him closely, noticing small changes I had ignored before, the way he would check his phone surreptitiously, the sudden excuses about late nights and missed plans, the way he tried to hide his smiles when talking to someone on the phone. She was becoming a part of our lives without ever stepping into the room, and every step he took toward her, he took away from me. I started observing her too, the way she dressed, laughed, even how she walked. It became clear why he was drawn to her. She was everything I had been, but with a polished, effortless charm that he seemed to prefer. That knowledge should have hurt me, should have broken me, but instead it made my resolve sharper. I realized that to fight her, to fight him, I had to be smarter, quieter, invisible until the right moment. So I waited, I let the little betrayals slide, smiled through his lies, kept my voice soft when he tried to justify his actions, and all the while I documented everything, every message, every hidden plan, every lie. I was building a map of his deceit. I was collecting the tools for a revenge so meticulous, so precise, that it would leave no room for escape. Then came the weekend trip he planned with cousins. The one he claimed was harmless and ordinary. I didn't confront him, I didn't ask questions. I let him leave, watched him disappear out of the door, and felt the first true thrill of control in months. I knew where he was going, with whom, and how I would dismantle their little bubble of false happiness. That night I sat in my room alone, staring at my reflection, seeing the girl I had been and the woman I had become, angry, cold, calculating. My tears were gone. In their place was a clarity I had never felt before. I would let them believe they had won. I would let him believe I hadn't noticed, that I didn't know. And then when the moment was perfect, the curtain would rise on a show neither of them would forget. I started planning small things, notes sent anonymously, photos appearing in places they would notice, carefully orchestrated coincidences that would make them doubt each other and trust no one. But I had to stay calm, patient, invisible while they enjoyed their fake happiness. Every laugh, every smile of theirs fueled my determination to make sure the end would be mine. I reminded myself every night that revenge is an art, not an act. It's patience wrapped in pain, it's silence that screams louder than words. And every move I made thought of confronting him directly. It made no sense. The satisfaction would be in watching him crumble without knowing who had pulled the strings, the way he used to make me feel small and unworthy. Now it was my turn to orchestrate every moment, my turn to make him see the consequences of his betrayal without a chance to escape. The world would watch him frozen, unable to act, and I would walk away untouched and finally free. My nights were filled with quiet planning, watching every photo, every story, every post that revealed more than he ever intended. Every secret shared online became a piece of my strategy. Every smile on her face became a note in my memory of what I had to undo. Every time he laughed thinking he was winning, I counted silently, marking down the exact moment when I would strike. And with each passing day I felt stronger, wiser, colder, more certain that patience would deliver the perfect revenge, the kind that leaves no room for forgiveness, only the echo of what was lost and the quiet satisfaction of a lesson delivered without a word. And as I went to sleep that night I smiled, imagining the look on his face when he realized he had underestimated the one he thought he could hurt without consequence. And in that darkness I promised myself that the next chapter would begin when they least expected it, and it would end only when justice had its final word, and every tear I had shed, every sleepless night, every silent cry would transform into a symphony of retribution that would leave their world in ruin and mine intact. And in that calm of the night I felt the power of patience, of planning, of knowing that the storm I was building would arrive unseen, unstoppable, and unforgettable. She learned to move in the margins of their days so quietly that no one noticed her shadow. She watched him laugh with the other woman the way he used to laugh with her, and she wrote down the rhythm of their meetings, the names of cafes, the filters they used on their photos, and every small breadcrumb they left for the world to find. She made a fake account that felt like an old friend, and the other woman trusted it and sent pictures and voice notes, and the man's messages became the evidence she needed. She rented a corner table at a cafe and watched them from a distance, noting the barista who always refilled his coffee and the exact turn of his head when he thought no one was watching. She left small anonymous things to unnerve them: a lipstick on his pillow, a photograph tucked under a windshield wiper, a voicemail with no words, just a breath, and each tiny act pulled at the seams of his composed life. Then she arranged a quiet public nudge, a montage at a local charity night that showed his public smiles against his private promises. The screen filled with messages he thought were hidden, and the room shifted. His face went white, and the girl began to cry, not from malice, but from the sudden weight of truth. He left that night shaken and apologetic, and she listened from a distance, letting his pleas settle into silence. She pressed on with slow, precise moves, gathering statements from others he had used and forgotten, and when she offered him clean legal closure, the papers were not a spiteful trap, but a boundary he chose to sign because his pride mattered more than the fight. The result was not only his undoing, it became her opening. She built a quiet platform from anonymous vignettes that turned into community and work, and while he watched from the edges, she used the ashes of betrayal to make something useful, and the first twist had done its job. It exposed him, it cracked his world, and set the stage for the final act. She had already seen the first cracks in his carefully built world, and now it was time for the final move. She didn't need public spectacle anymore. Everything would be private, precise, and final. She contacted people from his past, those he had hurt and those who had seen his lies unfold quietly. She gathered evidence, small notes, screenshots, recorded conversations, and photographs, each one placed like a stitch in the fabric of a plan that would leave no escape. She orchestrated a quiet meeting at a place he thought ordinary, a small restaurant he frequented, a Tuesday dinner, nothing unusual except that every detail had been planned. He arrived with rehearsed charm, unaware that each plate served as a prop in his undoing. She watched from a distance, unseen. The woman who had once been hurt by him years ago stood beside her as an ally. They asked questions subtly at first, then more pointedly, weaving truth into casual conversation until his lies were impossible to maintain. He tried to joke it off, to charm his way through, but the weight of evidence and carefully planted witnesses left him exposed and silent. Each attempt to explain only revealed more deception. The man left the restaurant shaken, apologetic, but powerless. He called her repeatedly, but she let it ring. She had no need for excuses. His actions had already spoken for him. She moved on to secure the final closure, legal boundaries. She prepared paperwork to ensure nothing he could claim remained unaccounted for. He signed quietly, the only choice left to him, and in that moment she felt the release, not of revenge alone, but of a life reclaimed. She began to rebuild quietly. A blog of anonymous stories turned into a community, a platform for other women to find their voice. Her experiences transformed into guidance and empowerment. She spoke at small events, not to gloat, but to educate the consequences of betrayal and the power of reclaiming oneself. And while he watched from the margins, furious, helpless, she had already won her real victory. She had taken control, not through chaos, but through measured action. She had exposed him, she had set boundaries, she had restored herself, and in the silence of her apartment she finally smiled at the thought that she had turned pain into power, and in that power found peace. And when she walked into the sunlight, the world had shifted slightly. Her story complete, her revenge precise, her life her own, and the lessons she had learned engraved not in anger but in clarity, patience, and the refusal to be invisible again.